Hi, I want to do a quick Christmas message for you because obviously, if you're here following me, it means there is grief in your life, that you're on the path to healing or working out how to heal, or you're in the very, very early stage of it where that's not quite relevant yet. But this can be, I don't need to tell you this, a really tough time of year because there's a lot of hype around Christmas, even if you don't celebrate it, even if it's if you're in a society where they celebrate Christmas, but maybe it's outside of your beliefs and your religion, but you're still exposed to the hype, even if you're not a Christmassy person. I'm not a Christmassy person. But there's just so much hype, and a lot of it is just the commercialization, getting people out there to buy things for others or buy things for yourself because you feel miserable. But it's hard to avoid the ideas around of what Christmas is meant to be and who we're meant to be with. And it may be that that's what Christmas is for you anyway, that there's, that your Christmas has always been a thing with family or friends. And of course, when you're coming into Christmas and you've got grief going on and there's somebody that you expected to be with, that you expected to be in touch with, that you expected to have in your life, and they're not in your life, in this period where there's just so much focus on the people you love, it can be a really, really, really tough time. And it can be very difficult that, you keep getting the same message pushed on you about, wow, it's the best time of the year and it's the happiest time of the year, which for a lot of people it's not, just simply because of those messages, coming when you've got stuff going on. It's, for a lot of other people, there's other stuff that's not grief, but if you're in grief, it can be a really, really, really tough time. And I remember actually the first Christmas but after my dad and other family members had died, so there was 6 of them in 4 months, and probably 3 or 4 that we would have had there at Christmas, including my dad and my grandmother, that weren't there. And, this is long before I had kind of stumbled upon my healing work and I even knew that was an option, but it would have been too soon anyway because it had all just happened in those few months before. And I remember Christmas just being utter shit. I just wanted it over and done with. We all just got together, had lunch. Nobody seemed too fussed. I think I probably drank too much, and it was a really hard time. And I think it can be made much harder by the expectation that it's meant to be this wonderful day. So if that's you, I'll just make that stop. If that's you, and you're coming into this Christmas and you have grief that you're coping with and the season is causing you trouble, then there are some tips that I can give you for just how to make the day more manageable. And I'm going to link, I've written blogs, more in-depth blogs in them below. I'm going to link them all down there for you. And there's also my ebook, which is specifically around with these tips and a couple of others, for just how to make Christmas a bit easier. So click through if you want to get that one. But some of the things I would say is, firstly, your expectations. So not just, you can have this expectation that Christmas is meant to be a wonderful day, but also what can happen is that we can go into Christmas expecting it to be rotten. And that was definitely the space I was in that first Christmas, just expecting it to be rotten, thinking, God, it's going to be so horrible. And I always say to people, just let it be what it is. You know what? Maybe you'll be right, but maybe you won't be. But when we go in believing it's going to be absolutely horrific, it's just going to be this horrendous day, it's almost like a plan. We go in creating that. We go in expecting that. And it might not be. And I say this because I've worked with so many people and given this advice so many times and had people come back and say, actually, it wasn't as bad as what they'd expected, when they lowered that expectation. So I'm not saying to go in trying to tell yourself it's going to be the best day, but just go in going, right, just see how it is. It's just another day, and just see how it is, and just see how you're feeling and work with that, rather than going and telling yourself ahead of time that it's going to be just the worst day ever, because it might not be. So just to watch what your expectations are doing, watch what you're setting up. The next thing is to allow it to be different. We often have this feeling it's all meant to be the same, except for this person missing, and people do what I think is the worst idea in the world, sitting out an empty chair. Sitting out an empty chair because the person is not physically present. They don't need a chair. The chair becomes, a black hole to suck any joy into it, which nobody wants to be. Nobody wants that to be their legacy, If any of us were to die before Christmas, we wouldn't want to think, that somehow we're set up as a reminder on Christmas that kind of keeps everybody sad. So don't do that. But, allow it to be different. Maybe you do something different for Christmas. Create a different tradition. I remember one year, a friend of mine and her brother, and it was the first year without both of their parents who died. And so she had heard this from me, and she had said to him, let's make things different. And so when she flew in to spend Christmas with him and got off the plane, he turned up, and I think he turned up with their dog dressed in a pink tutu or something, and said, well, it's different. And so they did. They decided, instead of doing what they used to do with their family, they went out for a walk in the morning, and they just tried to do different things, and that eased things. Because when you try and do exactly the same thing as you would have done with this person, and then you try and recreate that but without them, that it's a really stark reminder of a loss when you can actually just allow something else to be created. Another tip is to just allow joy in. And again, this isn't to force it, this isn't to fake it, but people can get into a space where they feel like they're meant to be miserable, and it's somehow disrespectful or dishonoring them to feel any happiness at all. And again, nobody wants that. Good God, none of us want that. Your person who died does not want to be a source of misery, would not want to, have Christmas be totally without any fun or any joy at all. Again, it's not that you fake it or try to force it, but if something funny happens and you laugh, that's okay. If one of the kids gives you a big cuddle and you enjoy it, that's okay. If you have a drink of something you like or you eat something yummy, enjoy it. Allow those moments in, because that can become a problem later on when people just don't even allow that to happen and just focus on everything that hurts instead of allowing anything else. Just allow that. Also, to allow whatever you're feeling and whatever you're going through. Allow that too. Don't try and push it away. Don't try and, you just wear yourself out for the day trying to pretend you feel better than you do. If you need to take some time away before any festivities are happening, then, get a journal and write out how you're feeling. Allow yourself some space to connect with whatever's feeling and to allow some of that out. You don't need to be bottling it all day, and you just end up, maybe getting drunk and taking it all out on some relative you don't like. So, make some space for that as well. And also, you can create space for the person. So, for the person who died, I mean. So not through the empty chair, but just, if you feel like there's a way you can connect with them that may or may not fall within your beliefs, but even just, taking the time to write a little letter for them, or writing down some memories, or writing down some things you loved about them. Just taking the time, because otherwise you can feel like you need to have done something and you haven't. So instead of just allowing that to kind of go on all day, create some space, light a candle for them, or look at a picture of them. Do whatever you need to. There's no specific way here to feel like you've connected or maybe pointed some energy in their way for the day. Right? Again, so it's not about having to ignore them either. So creating some space for that. I think, try not to drink too much. You know that one. It's easy to. Been there, done that. But it usually backfires. But those are my main tips, just to keep that one a bit shorter than my usual blog, but not really. But if you want more in-depth reading on any of these, and that's not just for Christmas, these can help you every day, but of course they're specifically designed just to get through this, what can be a much more challenging time. You've got all the blogs below. And if it's very fresh, I've heard yesterday about what is, for most people, very, very, very challenging death that has happened for a family, one of our neighbours, in the last couple of days. If you're right in the guts of something and it's just happened, then, and a lot of that, what I've just said, may not feel relevant. It may feel too hard to even do any of that. Then the first thing always when you're in the roughest of spaces is to come back to doing the absolute basics of looking after yourself. Really making sure you're doing the basics of looking after yourself, that you're checking those boxes, and that you're giving yourself a chance to express whatever you're feeling. And if that means beating up a pillow, writing it down, talking to a friend, whatever it is you need to do just to let some feelings out, so again, you're not getting stuck with it in your body, then that's the thing to do. But wherever you are at with this, sending you so very much love. For those of you that are on a healing path, and those of you that are working with me currently, know that this is the last Christmas it'll be like this, because it doesn't ever have to be like this again. It can be completely different by next year. For those of you who've been through this more than one Christmas and you've been following me for a while, maybe this is time to think about getting in touch so that next Christmas you're not going through the same thing again. Heal this. You don't need to have this next year as well. But wherever you're at, the beginning or near the end of a healing journey, or that is very recent, just sending you so very much love through this period, and see you soon.